the question, isn't it? Anytime you come to church, and maybe anytime you go anywhere, who are you looking for? This is the question put to Mary Magdalene in the gospel story just now, and I think it's the question that's in front of us, not just during the 30 or 40 minutes of my sermon, but I'm kidding. Not just during the sermon, but during this service and during this festival weekend, and at other times as well. Who are we looking for? Now, before I did this, I was a graphic designer, and I did marketing and copywriting and a lot of those things. And I still dabble in that. I do what I can for the church. The logo that you see, what do you see when you see the logo? Do you see a heart, mostly? Yeah. See a heart? Does anybody see angel wings when you first look at the logo? Some people. Now, putting it in red doesn't help with that. You immediately would think heart when you see that. But a few people see both. And that was the idea. It's a heart. It's the angel wings. We are St. Michael, the Archangel, Episcopal Church, but that was too long for us. So St. Michael's Episcopal Church is plenty. And so I still get to do that sometimes. But back in the day, I was designing logos a lot. And the Holy Grail, when you're designing a logo, is to do something with a little hidden image in it, or a little something beneath the surface, or saying two things at once, which is what we tried to do with this new logo for St. Michael's. And every graphic designer will point to this one example as being the one that nailed it, and that's the FedEx logo. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The arrow, right? How many decades have you seen that logo, and you're like, I see a Fed, and I see an X. What's the big deal, right? Look at it again. Look at it on your phone if you want. Right there, embedded into the X, the E and the X, is an arrow pointing forward. This is a company that delivers things, right? Always moving, always going forward. Embedding that arrow in, and maybe we see it and are aware of it, or maybe we're sort of aware in our subconscious that, feels like moving forward. And we as Christians, we sort of have a logo too, don't we? A many, many centuries old logo, and I talked about this a bit on Friday, and that logo is the cross. And we do all kinds of crazy things with the cross, don't we? We process it up and down the aisle. We have one out front by the street. We have one up on our steeple, although the proportions are a little bit wrong. Maybe that's just the graphic designer getting annoyed. But I see some of you looking up as if you could see it. No, it's outside the building. You can look at it when you leave. But yeah, crosses everywhere. It's like we're obsessed. It's like, what is the deal with the cross? I'm Jerry Seinfeld all of a sudden. What's the deal? No, it's everywhere. We'll put diamonds on it, gold on it, all kinds of ornate, decorated. The cross is a big deal. Ironically, though, there's only one day in the church calendar, in the church year, that's actually all about what happened at the cross. And that was Good Friday, right? Just a few days ago. And as if we couldn't already make a bigger deal out of the cross, we also pulled a big wooden one out of the basement, and we put it here, and after the service, we came up and spent some time with it. It's called venerating the cross. One day. This is our big symbol, and we take one day to actually consider, to purely consider what happened there. Why is this our symbol? And to compound the irony, it's also a day that we veil the cross. We cover it up. Why is that the day that we cover up the cross? It feels like maybe today should be that day. Because what is the cross but an instrument of torture? It's an instrument of defeat for whoever's on it. And we most of us know the story of how the Roman Empire used this not only as a tool to suppress any opposition it might receive, but as a symbol of that power and that dominance, a symbol of empire. Don't mess with us. Because if you were handed a cross to carry, You're done. That's it for you. The cross was undefeated, thousands and thousands and thousands of times in a row. No survivors. Until this one guy came along. Until they tried to put Jesus on it. And you know what? It defeated him too, at first. And of course, we all know the victory that Jesus achieved over the cross. That is why we're here this morning. That's why we've broken out of our sad songs for Lent and we're singing happy songs now. That's why we've gotten past all of the mixed emotions of Palm Sunday and all of the complicated stuff with Maundy Thursday and Good Friday. And here we are, pure joy, because finally one person came along who could defeat the cross, who could defeat death, and rise again. And what is the first thing we see Jesus doing when he rises? We see him coming out of that tomb, going back over to that cross that he died on, and ripping it to shreds, right? That's not it. Jesus, in that moment, achieved defeat over death, but he chose to leave the cross intact. What did he do instead? He talked to one of his best friends. He showed up to Mary Magdalene. You know why he showed up to her specifically? Because she was there. Everybody else had run away. Her and the other women, of course, had stayed. She was the closest. So he deliberately went up to the one who had remained the closest to him. And yet still she didn't recognize him. So they have to ask that question, who are you looking for? Well, she was looking for a corpse. She was looking for Jesus, but she was looking for a dead Jesus, not a living one. So it took her a minute. It took her hearing her name. And Jesus said to her, Mary. Why is that? She didn't recognize his face. She didn't recognize his body, but she recognized his voice, the voice of the shepherd. And this is the choice that Jesus made. This is the thing that shows why he went through all of this. It was moments like that. Moments of saying Mary's name. Moments of saying all of his disciples' names. Are we listening to hear our name in Jesus' voice so that we recognize who he really is and not who we were told that he would be? It's a moment that brings life. And in this moment that brings life, I'm going to go back to this question of symbols, of logos, because why? If Christianity is to be a symbol of life and of resurrection, why, if we're going to put that resurrected life at the very center of our faith, like Paul says, if Christ is not raised, we are most to be pitied. If there is no resurrection, we are pathetic. Paul is very clear about this. Resurrected life defines who we are. So why not use the open tomb? Why did that not become our symbol? The stone rolled away from the tomb. Death is no more. It is purely a symbol of life, and yet that doesn't seem to be what Jesus wanted. Jesus kept the cross intact because he didn't come to destroy the cross. He came to redeem it. He came to reappropriate it. He came to pour new meaning into all of the death that we have put on these things, all of the domination, all of the oppression, all of the scarcity mindset, and all of the competition that we bring to human life. All of that is death. And just like Jesus said, I've come not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. Jesus came not to abolish all of those things. To abolish all of the trappings of humanity that we've built up over the centuries. He came to fulfill it. He came to redeem it. So the cross is intact. But something else is broken. And if you think back a few days in the story of Jesus' passion, You may recall the moment when Jesus breathed his last, that moment when the sun went dark. Something else broke. And that was the curtain. The great curtain in the temple, ripped from the top to the bottom. Almost as if the Father in heaven had taken his robes at the death of his Son and split it in two, which was a custom at the time in great tragedy to tear your clothing. Jewish people still do this symbolically. Imagine the Father at the moment of the death of his Son ripping his robes open. And this is the exact same thing that happens in the temple when we see that curtain. There was a Holy of Holies, the most holy place that only one person in the world was allowed to go into, and that was only on one day of the year, because that's where the Ark of the Covenant was kept. That's where God's presence was the most intense. That's where God was the most real. And it was so dangerous that if anybody went in there on the wrong day, or if the wrong person went in there, it was instant death. And this is what it meant to be in the presence of God. And in that moment, when Jesus died, God said, that's over. None of that. We are being welcomed into God's presence. We are being welcomed into the Holy of Holies, or better yet, the Holy of Holies is coming out to us. Could spread from that little tiny room in the middle of the temple out into the priestly court, out into the court of the Jews, out into the court of the Gentiles, out into Independence, Missouri. So that we can gather in this holy place, or that holy place, or your home, or your work, or your school, those holy places, and we can carry that resurrected life with us. It sometimes seems like this should be the day that we veil the cross and forget about death and focus on the open tomb. But Jesus left the cross intact for a reason. He says, yes, have your Easter Sunday. Have your resurrection celebration. Sing the hymns, rejoice, hunt for Easter eggs. Do the whole thing. But when you're done, remember the cross is there waiting for you to pick it up again and to follow him. Amen.